Welcome to the Empowered Meaning Coaching Podcast Series. I'm your host, Louise and Maurice. You know I love hearing from you. So in the comment section, make sure that you're sharing your experience. And if this material is resonating with you, make sure you're giving it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from it. Let's continue. Are stubborn people confident? What do you think? Well, in episode 7 in this podcast, we are going to look at stubborn people and confidence. Maybe you're shaking your head. Oh, I know a lot of stubborn people. Well, we're going to start with the meaning of stubborn so that you are clear on what it is and what it isn't. And then stubbornness and confidence, the recent research that is out so that you can understand a bit more about stubborn people. And then stubborn people's limiting beliefs. What is going on underneath the surface? What do they believe to be true about themselves? We're going to look deeply at that. And then coaching stubborn people. I'm going to give you 5 coaching questions that you can use with them and then share with you where you can get an additional 5 coaching questions free on my website to download. No email address is required. All right, let us begin. Make sure that you have your listening ears on because we're going to start with the meaning of stubborn. Here's some quick tip reminders. There's a lot of great information contained in this podcast. I don't want you to miss anything. So if you like to read as you listen to me, click on the CC to pull up the closed captions. This gear icon, when you click on it, this will pull up the settings. The playback speed is on normal. When you click on that, you can increase the speed to 2x, which will make this go quicker. Let's continue. Let's start by dissecting the meaning of stubborn, beginning with what stubborn means to you. When you think of the word stubborn, what one word or phrase would you use to describe it? All right, I want you to keep that word in mind as I discuss the dictionary definition of stubborn. According to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, the definition of stubborn means unreasonably or perversely unyielding, justifiably unyielding or resolute, suggestive or typical of a strong nature, performed or carried on in an obstinate or persistent manner, difficult to handle, manage, or treat. Now, some of the character traits of people who have been identified or identify as stubborn include, the unyielding in their opinion and belief. They tend to stick to their convictions and resist changing their minds, even when faced with evidence or arguments that contradict them. Stubborn people have a strong sense of self-identity and like to be independent. They value their autonomy and freedom and do not like to depend on others or follow rules that they do not agree with. Stubborn people can be inflexible and resistant to change. They prefer to keep things the way they are and avoid new situations or challenges that might require them to adapt or compromise. Stubborn people are usually determined and persevering. They have a strong will and motivation to pursue their goals and overcome obstacles, even when they face difficulties or opposition. Stubborn people can also be uncompromising, rigid, and opinionated. They have high standards for themselves and others and do not like to settle for less than what they want. They can also be domineering, controlling, and argumentative, especially when they feel threatened or challenged. So these are some of the typical characteristics of a stubborn person, but of course, not all stubborn people are the same. Some may have more or less of these traits or display them in different ways. Stubbornness can also have a positive or negative effect depending on the situation and how it is expressed. For example, being stubborn can help someone stand up for their beliefs and values. but it can also make them closed-minded and difficult to get along with. Therefore, it's always important to balance stubbornness with other qualities such as flexibility, openness, and empathy. All right, so now that you know the dictionary definitions of stubborn and some of the character traits that people who are stubborn they have, how close was the dictionary definition to the one word or phrase that you used to describe stubborn? All right, so from the dictionary definition of stubborn and the character traits of people who are stubborn, I want you to think of people you know who fit the description. And as you listen to the research that's coming up, it will help you gain insight and perspective. But before we get to that research, let's look deeper at the meaning of stubborn, what stubborn is, what stubborn isn't, and some of the myths associated with it. Now, stubborn is an adjective that describes someone who is determined to do what they want and refuses to change their mind or accept a different opinion. Stubborn is not the same as being strong-willed, resolute, or persistent, which can have positive connotations. Stubborn can also mean difficult to deal with, change, or remove, such as a stubborn stain or a stubborn problem. Some of the myths associated with people who are stubborn are: myth 1, they are always wrong or irrational. Now, this is just not true because sometimes being stubborn can help people stick to their principles, goals, or beliefs, even when they face opposition or challenges. Stubborn people may have valid reasons for their choices, and they may be right in some situations. Myth 2, they are selfish or arrogant. Again, this is not true because being stubborn does not necessarily mean that one does not care about others or thinks highly of themselves. Stubborn people may be stubborn for the sake of others, such as their family, friends, or causes they support. They may also be humble and willing to admit their mistakes or learn from others as long as they are not forced or pressured to do so. Myth 3, they are unhappy or lonely. Again, this is not true because being stubborn does not mean that one is dissatisfied with their life or isolated from others. Stubborn people may have a strong sense of self and a clear vision of what they want, which can bring them happiness and fulfillment. They may also have supportive and loyal relationships with people who respect and appreciate their stubbornness. Myth 4, the final myth. They are doomed to fail or suffer. Again, this is not true because being stubborn can also have positive outcomes and benefits. Stubborn people may be more resilient, creative, and courageous as they overcome obstacles and pursue their passions. They may also inspire and influence others with their determination and conviction. Being stubborn is not always a bad thing as long as it does not harm oneself or others. It can be a trait that reflects one's personality, values, and preferences. However, being stubborn can also have negative consequences and drawbacks, such as missing out on opportunities, alienating others, or causing conflicts. Therefore, it is very important to be aware of one's stubbornness and balance it with flexibility, openness, and compromise. All right, so that is the meaning of stubborn. We looked at the dictionary definition. We looked at character traits of people who are or who have been identified, in other words, labeled themselves stubborn. And then we also looked at what it is, what it isn't, as well as some myths. Now that you know all of this associated with people who are stubborn, what does the research say? Are stubborn people confident? All right, let's look at that. Stubbornness and confidence research. The research says that stubbornness can be formed in childhood in healthy ways and unhealthy, distorted ways that then impact people into adulthood. For example, a healthy way of being stubborn is when a child stands up for their values or beliefs, even when they face opposition or pressure from others. This can help them develop confidence, resilience, and integrity. An unhealthy way of being stubborn is when a child refuses to cooperate, listen, or learn from others, especially their parents or teachers. This can result from over-controlling, neglectfulness, or inconsistent parenting styles, or from traumatic experiences that make the child feel insecure, fearful, or angry. This can lead to problems with communication, relationships, and self-regulation into adulthood. The three situations that can trigger people to be stubborn are: number one, when they feel threatened, attacked, or criticized by others. This can make them defensive and unwilling to admit their mistakes or consider other perspectives. The second situation that can trigger people to be stubborn are when they have a strong attachment to their own ideas, opinions, or preferences. This can make them inflexible and resistant to change, even when there is evidence or feedback that suggests otherwise. The third situation that can trigger people to be stubborn are when they have a high need for control, autonomy, or independence. This can make them reject any suggestions, advice, or guidance from others, even when it could be helpful or beneficial. Now, the main fear that people experience when they are stubborn is the fear of losing their identity, losing their power, or losing their status. They may worry that if they change their mind, compromise, or ask for help, they will be seen as weak, wrong, or inferior by others or by themselves. They may also fear that they will lose their sense of self, their values, or their goals if they conform to others' expectations or demands. The belief that comes from that fear is that they have to be right, they have to be perfect or superior at all times, and that they cannot trust, rely on, or learn from others. They may also believe that they're the only ones who know what is best for them, and that they have to defend their position or prove their point at all costs. The feelings they experience when they are stubborn are often negative, such as anger, frustration, resentment, anxiety, or guilt. They may also feel lonely, isolated, or misunderstood, as they may alienate themselves from others who disagree with them or try to help them. The behaviors and defense mechanisms that they use as protective measures when they are stubborn are often counterproductive, such as arguing, blaming, denying, ignoring, avoiding, or withdrawing. They may also use rationalization, justification, or minimization to explain or excuse their stubbornness. Again, the character traits or personality traits that result when people are stubborn are often mixed, as stubbornness can have both positive and negative aspects, as we've already learned. But some of those positive traits are determination, perseverance, courage, and loyalty. Some of the negative traits are rigidity, arrogance, intolerance, and hostility. Now, stubbornness and confidence are two different but related traits that can have both positive and negative effects on one's life. Stubbornness is the tendency to resist changing one's mind or behavior, even when faced with evidence or feedback that suggests otherwise. Confidence is the belief in one's abilities, skills, and worth. According to some research, stubbornness can be a sign of confidence, as it indicates a strong sense of self and a willingness to stand up for one's values and beliefs. Stubborn people may also be more creative and resilient, as they find alternative ways to achieve their goals and overcome challenges. However, stubbornness can also be a sign of insecurity, as it may reflect a fear of losing one's identity, power, or status. Stubborn people may also be more hostile and intolerant, as they may reject or criticize others who disagree with them or try to help them. Compliance, on the other hand, is the tendency to conform to others' expectations or demands, even when they conflict with one's own preferences or interests. Compliance can be a sign of low confidence, as it may indicate a lack of self-esteem and a need for validation. Compliant people may also be more passive and dependent, as they may avoid making decisions or taking responsibility for their actions. However, compliance can also be a sign of high confidence, as it may reflect a willingness to cooperate, compromise, and learn from others. Compliant people may also be more flexible and adaptable, as they may accept change and feedback more easily. Therefore, as you see, the relationship between stubbornness, confidence, and compliance is not straightforward, but rather depends on the context, the intention, and the outcome of one's behavior. A balance between stubbornness and compliance may be optimal for achieving one's goals and maintaining one's well-being. Some of the obstacles or challenges that stubborn people may be trying to cover up are fear of being wrong, weak, or inferior, difficulty coping with negative emotions or stress, lack of effective communication or social skills, traumatic experiences, or dysfunctional family backgrounds. Some of the obstacles or challenges that people pleasers may be trying to cover up are fear of being rejected, disliked, or abandoned, difficulty asserting one's needs and boundaries, and lack of self-care or personal interests, social conditioning, or cultural norms. Now remember, all of this research that I'm sharing with you is not so that you judge people, but I want you to have that context and understanding, especially when you understand the origin of stubborn people and their behaviors as well as thought patterns. You can be authentically compassionate without taking some of their harsh actions or behaviors personally, because it's never about you. Always remember that. And thinking back to this research, you might want to go back and listen to that again and take some notes. All right, now let's talk about people who are stubborn and their limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are false or rigid convictions that restrict you in some way. Stubborn people often have limiting beliefs that prevent them from changing their opinions, learning new skills, or trying new things. Some examples of limiting beliefs that stubborn people may have are, I am always right. This limiting belief makes them think that their perspective is the only valid one and that anyone who disagrees with them is wrong or ignorant. They may reject constructive criticism, feedback, or advice and miss out on opportunities to improve themselves or improve their situation. Another limiting belief is, I don't need help. This belief makes them think that they can handle everything on their own and that asking for help is a sign of weakness or incompetence. They may avoid seeking support, guidance, or assistance from others, even when they are struggling or overwhelmed. I have to be perfect. This limiting belief makes them think that they have to meet those unrealistic standards of performance, appearance, or behavior, and that any mistake or flaw is unacceptable. Some other beliefs, I can't do anything differently or better than I already do, so why even bother trying? I don't have time or resources to learn or improve. I'm not good enough or worthy of success. Now, these limiting beliefs can impact their success in various ways, such as they're going to miss out on valuable feedback, insights, or opportunities from others. They're just closed-minded and shut down. They may alienate or offend people who have different perspectives or experiences because they are so stubborn and nope, don't want to hear it. I'm right. They may stagnate or decline in their performance or productivity. They may feel frustrated, resentful, or insecure about their situation. They may limit their potential and happiness. Now, if you yourself are stubborn, and I've been going through these limiting beliefs, and you're like, no, No, that's not the limiting belief that I have. What is the limiting belief that holds you back? Or maybe even a belief that you don't think is necessarily limiting yourself, but you just think, no, this is what I believe. So if you have that and it's not the same as anyone that I've already read, make sure you're sharing that in the comments section because we want to hear from you. Okay, now that you understand the limiting beliefs, how do you coach people who are stubborn? Coaching stubborn people can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be so. You've already listened to the limiting beliefs and understand how those beliefs can inform you, especially if you are the coach, consultant, team lead, or manager, and you're working with someone who's stubborn and they are getting in their own ways. They're creating conflict with other people because they're not able to collaborate and contribute. And you want to guide them so that they understand how their fears, their doubts, their assumptions prevent them from being flexible. And you also want to help them overcome their limiting beliefs by challenging those beliefs and providing evidence, offering alternative perspectives, and encouraging them to step inside another zone that has them seeing other people's perspectives. Now, to overcome limiting beliefs, stubborn people, yes, they need to challenge their assumptions, be open to new information, and adopt a growth mindset. And this is where, with coaching, you can assist them by asking those questions and then listening to understand, not to argue or judge. Then you want to guide them to seek evidence and data that support or contradict their beliefs and be willing to revise them accordingly. And then help them to acknowledge their strengths and weaknesses. And then when they acknowledge their strengths and weaknesses, then offer feedback and guidance so that they are open to both sides and they don't feel like they are being attacked. And then you want to set realistic and specific goals and take action to achieve them. So guiding them to set those plans for achievement and then be there to celebrate their progress and achievements and guiding them as well to learn from their failures. Or if you can't be there, at least setting up some paradigms so that they have structure that guides them. Yeah, celebrate their progress and their achievements, especially if they are allowing in new perspectives, something that they'd never done before. All right, now let's talk about 5 coaching questions that you can use to help people who are stubborn. Question number 1. How does being stubborn help you achieve your goals? And this is about helping them to see the positive aspects, especially if they are being set aside. Okay, you need coaching. You're a part of this organization and your stubbornness is getting you in trouble and you aren't supporting the team. And if this is the communication that they are hearing, all of a sudden they're not using something that can be a strength to help them achieve their goals. So you have to, how does being stubborn help you achieve your goals? And then the second question, how does being stubborn hinder you from achieving your goals? Always being able to see both sides of the story. Third question, what are the benefits and costs of being stubborn for you and others? Now, this is where sometimes with stubborn people, a negative aspect of this personality trait is that they can't see what it's doing to other people. They are very narrow focused and they only see how that's just the way they've always been. If you talk to someone that's stubborn, well, I've always been this way. I can't change. I've always been this way. So it's about helping them to understand the benefits and costs for themselves and others. Question 4, how can you use your stubbornness as a strength rather than a weakness? So if for this person, if they are being told, no, it's a weakness, you've got to change, and who you are is wrong, and just because you've always been this way, no, it's not going to work. Well, all of a sudden now they're feeling disempowered. They're like, well, where am I supposed to go? This is a natural tendency, or it's something that I've had since I've been a child. So your role as a coach, team lead, manager, consultant is to work with what they already have and to help them to see it as a strength. And this is something where when you do that, the weakness aspect of it or how it's hurting other people will naturally go away, because all of a sudden now they are using it as a form of empowerment, not just for themselves, but for other people as well. And they're learning to work collaboratively and cooperatively with others. And the final and fifth question: what are some situations or triggers that make you more likely to be stubborn? Now, in the confidence and stubbornness in that research section, we had talked about those situations. I gave you 3 specific situations, but there might be other situations. But at least for you, knowing those 3 situations can help you, especially if they're not quite sure. And this, you can at least identify them and they can say, well, yes or no. And then it gets them talking, because you always want to make this about them and have them talking about their situation. And if they're being triggered to be stubborn, there is another aspect of their personality, and you want to provide them with the tools and the resources so that they can cope with the trigger or the situation and then use their stubbornness as a strength as opposed to a weakness. So those questions are powerful when they're put into action, but I want you to keep listening, because I'm going to let you know where you can download 5 more specific, powerful questions that will help you coach stubborn people. Well, that's a wrap for this podcast. Hopefully you've been sharing your experience in the comments section. I want to hear from you. You bring with you so much valuable insight. And if this podcast, what you've been listening to, if it resonated with you, make sure you give it a thumbs up as well. Share with people who can benefit from it. If you are not a subscriber, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so you're notified when the next podcast drops. I am your podcast host, Louise and Maurice, and I appreciate that you've spent your valuable time with me. As promised, I'm going to share with you where you can find the valuable PDF document with the rest of the coaching questions on it. You want to go to my website, louiseandmaurice.com, and you want to click on free or hover your mouse over free, and you see all of these resources that I have for you: free coaching training, coaching questions, empowered mindset. The last one, What Should I Do?, which was the Empowered Prevention series, and now Coaching Podcast. You want to click on Coaching Podcast, and that will take you to the free resources associated with Season 1 of the Coaching Podcast.